Okay, so this is going to be a quick tutorial on the fork and pull request workflow for Git. This is what we'll be using for some of our rapid development with application code, just because it makes it really easy to for developers to kind of have some assurance that they're not going to break any production code, and the flip side of that is to make it really easy to keep the master branch of the master repo production ready, and it's easy to make sure that it's always good to go and well-reviewed code. So that just kind of makes it a whole lot easier to have a lot of people working on the same project. So to start off, we're just going to go to the repository that we want to start working on. So we'll head to the Exalta2 repo. And so let's say, for instance, I want to make some changes into the DFGM code. There's nothing here right now because I just created it. But let's say, for instance, that I want to start making some changes. So what I'm going to do is click on this little fork button here. I've already forked it, so I'll just go there. But when you choose fork, it will basically make a carbon copy of the original repo in your own personal GitHub. So basically what we have now is the same thing in our personal repo, and we can make whatever changes we want, and it will not affect the original one in AlbertaSat's GitHub. So now what we can do is go ahead and clone this repo. Into our computer and make whatever local changes we want. So let's say I want to add a README, so I'll just go ahead and this DFGM hardware interface. This is not a very useful README, but for demo purposes it will do. Okay, so we've made our local changes. Let's say we've tested everything locally, flashed it to a board, made sure everything works, whatever. And so now we want to go ahead and push it to our personal repo first. So go ahead and do the git add. Oh. I made it in the wrong spot, so we'll go to exec2 git add. So this commit adds a README. Okay, so there's something we should mention before we push. So when we push, you usually automatically push code to whatever repository you cloned from originally. But now we want to work with multiple remote repositories. So that means we have two remote repositories, one on my personal GitHub and one on AlbertaSat's GitHub. And since I cloned from my version, then the origin, that's just the name of the remote repository that you cloned from, will be pointing to mine. So we can see that by going doing git remote-v for verbose. And then we'll see that both the push and the fetch are pointing to the repository on my account, which is called origin. So usually if I'm making a bunch of changes and time goes by, I want to add the original repository that I forked from, so that if there's any changes that are important put into this original repository, any bugs that are fixed, any features added, then I can pull them into my fork and my local machine, so that there isn't a huge difference between whatever I'm working on and what's in the production code. So the way we do that is just go ahead and copy the URL from the original repository and then add it as a remote repository on our machine. So the way we do that is git remote add, and usually we name this repo the upstream repo because it's the production repo, and it's always going to have the most recent production changes. So we'll name it upstream, but you can name it whatever you want, and then just put the URL in there. So now when we do the git remote, then you'll see that we have two different remote repositories that we can push to and pull from now. So with my changes, so I've already added and committed, so I could go git push upstream, which would be the exact same as if I had never forked in the first place. So that would push straight to here, which kind of negates all of the benefit of this workflow. So we're not going to do that. We're going to go push origin master. So now if we refresh here, we'll see that, whoops, no changes were actually made. But if we go back to my fork, then we'll see there's a nice little emboldened README DFGM hardware interface code. So this is how you would push and pull from your fork, or any number of remote repositories. Maybe your friend also has a remote repository. You could add their fork into here and pull and push changes to their remote repository. But basically, let's say I'm confident that my changes are good, and I want to put them into the production-ready code for review. So the way we do that is just choose this button here that says New Pull Request. And so GitHub is super duper smart, and it will automatically know what you probably want to do. So here you'll see up here, base repository is the AlbertaSat X-Altitude DFGM repository, and that's coming in from my fork of the X-Altitude DFGM code, and both on branch master. If there was a bunch of different branches, you could choose them here, and if you had a bunch of different forked repositories with different accounts, they would be here. So here you'll see a list of all the changes I've made. So I added, created a file with the README, and added 2 lines with a description of the README. If there had already been a README there and I was making changes, it would also show specifically line by line which changes I made, which makes it super easy to go ahead, go through and look at the changes that someone's made. So if I go ahead and create pull request, then it will take the most recent commit message as the title, but you can change the title to whatever you want. I will add a README. And then here you have some space to write a description of the changes. So this would be a good spot to link to the ClickUp task that this is related to. And it's all in Markdown, so if I wanted to go, here is my ClickUp task. Can link it like that. And so please try to put something descriptive here to help out the reviewers see what you're trying to do, and make note of anything that you think you want help with reviewing, or any thoughts on from the reviewers. So you can go ahead and create your pull request. And here you'll see you can choose a reviewer. So here's the list of all the people in AlbertaSat. I can choose, well, let's see. Maybe Josh wants to review my code. So now he'll be added as a reviewer. He'll get a notification. And so basically he'll be able to go through my files changed and make comments with this little plus button. Got it, got it. So you can either start a review with a comment or add a single comment. I'll just add a single comment, but if I was a reviewer, I might want to add a comment and start a review, which just means that it will be marked as changes that it won't let the pull request be merged until the review is resolved, and it will also group all the comments from one review together, as you can see here. And so you can see here there's one review pending. Once Josh has given his review, it will say that he's said it's good to go or needs changes or whatever. And then you can, once you're done, merge your pull request. And you have a few options here. Create and merge commit will take all the commit history from your local changes and put it into the production code. Or you can squash and merge, which will take the most recent commit message and put it so you don't clutter up the commit history of the production code. Depending on how many merges you've made, it's probably best to keep just the normal merge pull request, but if, for example, you needed to push a bunch of code with not much useful changes and not very descriptive commit messages, then you might want to squash and merge, just so you don't clutter up the history. So once I merge the pull request, confirm and merge, then it'll give you the option to delete your fork and delete your branches too, since you've done whatever, and it will say here merged. Now when I go to this code, it will have the README markdown in the original repository with the production code. So this is the basics of the fork and pull request workflow. And I think it's pretty easy, and it makes everybody's life a lot easier to review code and keep the production code nice and well reviewed.